Hello, and I hope everyone's having a good day. First thing I actually want to invite you to do is I'm very aware you've been sat here since lunch, and if you had the apple crumble, then we're probably feeling a bit sluggish. So just take this opportunity, if you want to, have a little stretch. Stand up, shake your legs. There we go. Absolutely, have a little dance. Because we sometimes just get that information fatigue. And having been at many conferences before, actually, I know that it can get a little bit information overload. You don't end up listening. What's happening on Instagram? And I want you to listen to what I've got to say. So, hope you are all feeling a little bit more comfortable. So, who am I, and why have I been invited to talk to you? It's because I spotted that Brian Cox was actually on the speaker list as the headline speaker, and I made sure that Marcus made sure I was on this speaking list because I am a major fangirl and is my son. So I've put a brief history of my career behind me so you can see that actually I've done quite a bit within the cyber industry, but I'm going to go one back. And I'm going to go back to 14-year-old Holly. And it's when I picked my drama GCSE. And my drama teacher said, "One day, Holly, I'll see you on the stage." Thank you. I don't think this is what she meant, and I think she was thinking more guys and dolls. But actually, when I look at how that has framed and shaped my career, I thank those lessons. I actually also went on to study a BTEC in Performing Arts and Musical Theatre, whilst my dad said I wasn't allowed to join the Royal Navy until I had a proper education. So, my technical career actually started in the Royal Navy. Unfortunately, I was medically discharged, and actually, I was in the Navy with Millie, who was on the stage sharing it with Purvi. And I've gone through a series of roles, and I am particularly known for my work and academic research in understanding the role of neurodiversity as a catalyst to cybercrime, so the vulnerability of neurodiversity as a catalyst towards cybercrime, but also my latest research actually looks at how neurodiversity affects cybersecurity posture. And this is how I came with this talk, because it's all about how we receive and interpret information that is given to us. So, a good story. We all love a good story. And show of hands, who are my book lovers? Okay? Who are my film lovers? A little bit more. Okay, who are my podcasters? Okay, who likes those really fast reels on Instagram, TikTok? Quick. There's going to be more, come on. We all admit it. We all like to doom scroll. But really, we all love a good story, whether it's horror, whether it's suspense, whether it's romantic. We all get invested. How many times have we been upset when we've finished a film or we've finished a book and we have that longing and connection with a character? But it's ancient. Storytelling is actually the earliest form of communication. Storytelling, we can predate our earliest story is actually 5,000 years old, but it isn't just to entertain. Telling a good story was also about translating of information. I think I'm going on to the next slide. Hold on. There we go. It was actually sharing information to stay safe. See that plant? Don't eat it. It was information on sharing moral conduct, to give guidance. And then, of course, sharing information as we developed in society about our do's and don'ts, but also to project. What do you think? How can we learn from each other? But stories have started to change. Stories, as we look into the modern age, have both started to change in how they are delivered, why they are delivered. Because a lot of our stories are actually to explain the unexplained. So modern storytelling. If you notice when I started asking people's preference on what story do you like, I was getting towards the more modern types of storytelling. But that's also how we like to receive information. Sometimes reading a book is often to to take some downtime, because how many of us in our day have hours to spend on thick literature? Unfortunately, we don't. We like to receive that information really quickly, and we need to have instant gratification from it. If it's boring, what do? We go on to the next one, or we read the next thing. And that's not just with story, that's also with information. And it's how we as a modern society, and this isn't just particularly within one age group, we all like to receive that information quickly, efficiently, and clearly. And why are we receiving it in the first place? Could this have just been an email? But also, it can change. Our perceptions can change. How many times have you ever read a book and then you've gone to see the film and you think, that's not what they look like? Or if they do change the script, then that's not actually what happened, or they leave the really important bits out. As a Harry Potter fan, I can tell you lots of things they missed out in the film. But also, when we read a book, we visualize and we connect with characters in a different way. When it's given to us in an alternate format, we start to change, or we start to question. And these are some things that I want you to consider with how we can tell stories about cybersecurity to a wider business context. And what does that look like? Again, I forgot to change my slide. Usually I'm using my little clicker, but I have to keep walking back. So I've mentioned about the different perspectives. And what I also wanted to explain was understanding what are those different perspectives in the data you are given. So if you have a data set that means a specific threat to the business, but you're going to give it to finance, HR, it's not going to mean anything to them. So we have to understand that difference of perspective. So here are some reasons that I've put down why I think storytelling is in fact a fantastic way, not just awareness, but in terms of delivery, anything to do with cybersecurity. Number one, it simplifies complex concepts. That was a tongue twister. One of the main barriers that we're going to have in cyber is what I like to call tech speak, or what that means, or our acronyms that we like to use. So by storytelling, we can start to address that. Engaging. Like we said earlier, I think Javad said, people's face when you suddenly see on your calendar for the next hour, you're sat listening about cybersecurity. The only thing other than that's worse than that is health and safety briefs, which basically they're about the same thing. But also, what stories do, or a good story, it will help you build an emotional connection. And this is key, because this is what we want when developing anything to do with cybersecurity to change behavior. It enhances your learning, your knowledge retention, so that you can ensure that that audience understands with what you need them to do, and not just what their perspective is. I don't actually need to do that. I can just log in and I can just send this email to my private address so I can work on it at home, because ultimately I'm just going to get more work done. Humanizing the threat. This is a great idea, because a lot of the time we don't see cybersecurity threats as something that will actually affect the human. Also, the organization makes millions. Some of us work for companies that make billions. What does it matter if the network's down? No. What does it matter if it steals your personal data? How would you feel if you were the one? I'm really picking on you there. How would you feel if you were the one to click on that link and bring that company down? You're the victim. So I'm really looking at you like you have to answer that. Humanize it. The influence of behavior. A story gives great influence, not just from the person who's telling it, but the way you develop it and include the people. It reinforces, as Javid said, I'm going to go before him next time. It reinforces and builds a positive cybersecurity culture. Notice the word positive, because there is always that cybersecurity culture, whether it's negative or positive. And it's going to create impact for stakeholders and board advisors. So, how do you do it? How do you tell a good story without once upon a time in a land far, far away? Let's start breaking it down for you all to become Tonkins yourself. What's your purpose? Because the best part about a story is the narrative. What do you need from this meeting? What do you need from this awareness training? Find a specific point and then develop that as your narrative. Number 2, and I changed this from find the right person to find the right delivery. As Purvi and Millie were saying, so Amanda, Millie, I'm never quite sure which one she prefers to go to these days. I'm just going to say Millie. We're talking about the softer skills. Recognise in our teams that we are going to have different skill sets. And often, in terms of delivery, it doesn't have to be that one person who's perhaps a manager to give the delivery part of the presentation. A great thing to do, and I've done this many a times, and it cringes me out so much, record yourself and watch it back. Or get someone who knows you, who isn't in cyber, brother, partner, not a dog, but somebody who can give you feedback. Because sometimes you're not going to be the right person to be the narrator of that story. Or find a way. Watch some videos on how to engage, how to reflect. Take GCSE drama. Honestly, it does get you up on the stages. So find the right person and find the right delivery, because your communication is key. Next, who are your audience? Not in terms of do you know their name? Is it, oh my gosh, the time is going. Who are your audience? Is the information you're giving them relevant? I'm going to really have to speed through this because Sarah's giving me the evil eye here. Make that impact and connection straight away. What you'd have noticed with a lot of presentations happening today, they start with a quote that is on neutral ground. It just means that we're all on a level playing field. My favourite, start to build a bit of tension. Da-dum, da-dum. Start building in some real life examples and make it relative to the audience themselves. Is it the finance department? Find out what their pain point is. Meet them where they are, expecting them to understand the landscape of what you're trying to operate in. One great thing about stories is really finding those emotions. And a great way to do that is, that, as I said, humanize. Use characters. Make them fall in love with someone. Make someone be the villain. And how do you connect? This is really important. I want you to look at your old metrics. How have you always delivered beforehand? How have people responded? And then relate. A lot of information and terms, as I mentioned, are going to be alien to a lot of people. So use personal experiences. Use funny memes. Use a way that they are going to be able to build their own relationship with the information that you're giving them. And always look to the future. Never look at what's happened. Give them an example of how you can support them into the future. If that does happen, here's how prepared we are. But we can only do that if you help us. That's all. Sorry, only joking. Sarah, I'm going to be booted off in 2 seconds. The most important part with any story is your feedback. Sarah's wrote books. You love your Amazon reviews because I wrote one. It's really important. It will help you guide to the next one. So reflection, measure, And is it going to work? And also change your narrative, change your story, so it actually builds purpose into what you're delivering. The end.